J.J. McCarthy is a little bit of an enigma to me and to, I think, many people that watch pro football, because his resume is unquestionably one of the best resumes in the sport. Matter of fact, I think when you're talking about winning games that matter and winning championships, he's up there with Trevor Lawrence, right? This is a guy who's lost one game as a starter and yet hasn't been setting the world on fire, throwing the ball all over the yard. Now, the thing he did better this year than he has any other year is take care of the football. I kept expecting J.J. McCarthy to throw the ball to the other team or to have one of those, J.J., what are you looking at type of moments. He didn't have any of those like he had against Texas Christian. And that ended up being a tremendously big deal for Michigan down the stretch, which is a ball control offense and then a stifling defense. So how do you evaluate J.J. McCarthy in this NFL draft? Where do you rate him? Well, you rate him behind Caleb Williams. You rate him behind Drake May. You rate him behind Jaden Daniels. You rate him behind Michael Penix Jr. And you rate him behind Bo Nix. And I would even go so far as to say you rate him behind Sam Hartman. Even Sam Hartman didn't have the best year, but his numbers are prolific. And you could just take a look at what he done at Wake Forest. You want to feel better about that. However, if you're just looking to draft a winner, a guy that has won football games, you go get J.J. McCarthy, right? Now, the counterpoint to that is Mac Jones was a winner at Alabama. Okay? You see what I'm saying here? One does not necessarily translate to the other in the NFL. And at any given time, we could talk about 2/3 of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL are sorry by our standards, because it is the most difficult position in sports, being the starting quarterback of an NFL football team. That is why it is so highly paid. And that is why we have such turnover, right? That's why Joe Thomas can play a game of, this was my starting quarterback this year at the Cleveland Browns, because it's really difficult to get that job. It's really difficult to keep it. It's really difficult to do it well, right? So as we're evaluating J.J. McCarthy, I think just seeing how people look at him and who they compare him to is going to tell us the most, because right now I can't see drafting J.J. McCarthy ahead of these other guys, which means I can't necessarily see drafting J.J. McCarthy in the first round. However, I saw Kenny Pickett drafted in the first round. Again, I saw Mac Jones drafted in the first round. I saw Trey Lance drafted in the first round. So stranger things have happened, right? And some guys end up being absolute ballers, even when I don't believe that's in the cards for them. One being Josh Allen, who has had one of the greatest turnarounds of any individual player in the history of the sport, from what he was at Wyoming to what he's done with Buffalo. Gets Patrick Mahomes and them up there for the weekend. I'm also interested where J.J. McCarthy could turn out to be an outstanding player, but in what way, right? Is it that he's going to be a prolific passer? Is it that he's going to be a dual threat? Is it that he's going to have to go to an offense that does a lot of what Michigan does, which is run the ball first, in which case, yeah, you're just running Kyle Shanahan's offense, right? When we no shade to Brock Purdy, but Mr. Irrelevant for a reason. You can win football games at a high level with that guy if all the other pieces around him are good. And that's really the point to harp on. If the pieces around J.J. McCarthy were not Blake Corum, Donovan Edwards, or Roman Wilson, or Colston Loveland, or that outstanding offensive line, would he be this good? And given this talent, should he have been better? It's a fair question to ask, right? Now, you could take into account the kind of offense that Jim Harbaugh wants to run and the kind of identity that this program has of being tough first, right? And never flashy. I just think that if you're a football team, you got to be very clear about what your goals are and whether or not J.J. McCarthy can help you reach those goals. Now, if you're going to play first round money, you want to get first round play, right? I don't know that J.J. can do that for you in year one or year two. Take a look at Bryce Young and what he has been through just in this first year, having the guy that drafted him fired before the season's over. That's going to mess with your confidence.
If you like what you've seen, consider subscribing to the #1 college football show on YouTube, the Fox Sports app, or wherever you get your podcast.